They were almost, I can't explain it, they were just, the sense you got from them, they were almost like they were almost not, they were so advanced, they were kind of between physical and non-physical. That's the only way I could describe it.
I've actually heard that a lot lately.
And they were, they didn't communicate like we do. I remember when I woke up stuck to a wall, literally stuck to a wall. It was like I wasn't strapped down, I wasn't glued down. It was like those centrifugal force rides that you go to an amusement park, Tilt-A-Whirl or whatever those are called.
Well, just to clarify, strapped to a wall where? Back in your apartment or somewhere else?
No, somewhere completely different. In this room, the lighting was different. The smells were different. It was like somewhere I'd never experienced before. There were no corners. There were no sharp corners anywhere. Everything was rounded. There was no furniture, freestanding furniture standing anywhere. I mean, everything was molded out of the surroundings. And I was standing kind of in a trench, for lack of a better description, and there were quarter-size pieces, round quarter-size pieces, copper pieces embedded in the wall every foot or so in a pattern. And I was stuck to this wall, and I couldn't get free no matter, I could move my head, I couldn't move my hands, my arms, my legs, my body. I could move my feet and my hands. But if I tried to get away, it was like too much gravity. That's the only way I can describe it. And I remember when I came to, it's like I just woke up from a sleep, the female had walked in through this arched doorway, and I couldn't figure out how she could walk around, and I couldn't. And she walked up next to where I was stuck against this wall, and she put her hand on the lit panel, and it kind of released me. And they turned me around, and what I remember specifically is every time I had a thought, like, oh my God, what am I doing here? Oh my God, where are you from? Symbols would pop into my head, and that's really the only way to explain it. And, how'd you get here? Symbols would pop in my head. What are you doing? And all these symbols would pop in my head. And they turned me around, and one of the males came rushing into the room with a box on a strap that was kind of around over his shoulder. And it was a lit box, and it had this bizarre tube coming out the end, and it was attached to, I don't know, what looked to me like a melon baller. And, the first thing you think of is, they talk about probing. It's like, oh my God,
that's what I thought when I was reading the book. I'm like, they took out a box, and what did he pull out?
It's like, whoa there, buddy. Where are you going to stick that?
Yeah.
Exactly. And I was flipping. At this point, I was so scared I almost passed out. And again, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. What I remember, though, is when I had these real strong emotions, they seemed to cringe. And to me, that was really bizarre. That was really fascinating. Any real strong, like fear or despair, they seemed to cringe. So she tried to calm me down, and she turned me around, and they started scraping this melon baller over, around my lower back, and intense pain, real intense pain. And they seemed to be so.
Uh-oh. We just lost the call.
We just lost the call with them?
Yeah, let me call group.
You could do it twice? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's calling them both at once. Hey, Mike?
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Okay, I got you.
All right.
Okay, that's good.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I hear you fine. Now we're calling Stan.
You hear us okay, Mike?
Yeah, this time seems good.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi, Stan.
Hey, Stan.
Okay, we're back on. So I don't know what happened there. That was really strange.
Stuff like it seems like every time I do a radio show, there's some kind of weird sound, or some kind of weird thread, or some kind of.
They're monitoring us, and they're trying to stop the truth from getting out. There
was some really weird sounds going on too.
I heard that too.
I heard like a chirping, almost like a bird chirping.
Did somebody have a bird? Is that you, Mike?
Not here.
Huh.
No.
No.
I didn't hear nothing.
Oh, I did. I thought that.
Yeah,
I thought it might have been.
It was earlier when we were talking. Well, let's go ahead and just pick up from here. You were talking about the scooper on the back. The last we heard, they said you were experiencing intense pain.
Yeah.
Well, I could feel them scraping this thing on me. Thank goodness it wasn't a probe. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little hard to write in a book.
Every guy's nightmare.
Yeah, no kidding. But so I felt this pain on my lower back, and then all of a sudden, I felt again this light tap on the back of my head, and I woke up on the table in the middle of the room. And there was no pain when I woke up, but I remember I woke up from being asleep, and I sat up, and there was this female just staring at me. And I will never forget the way they move. You know how dogs, when you talk to a dog, sometimes it tilts its head or cocks its head to one side?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
These beings do, and I have a theory. My theory is that because they communicate, telepathically, maybe they're trying to. You know how when we're trying to hear somebody, we kind of tilt our head so we can hear them better?
Yes.
Well, when they cock their head the way they do, I think they're trying to hear us, telepathically better. And I was sitting there, and this female came pretty close, and she tilted her head to one side, and literally an explosion of thought just filled my head, and it was so intense, it literally knocked me off the table.
Wow.
And when I kind of snapped out of it and got back on the table, I was terrified and said, "Calm down, it's okay." And she stepped back and kind of looked at me like, "Okay, you poor stupid slob, we're going to try this so you can understand it." And image after image, thought after thought, just bam, 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 bam. And that's when I realized that these beings, we communicate linearly. We talk word after word. It's kind of slow and archaic.
Right.
But they can communicate large volumes of information in concepts in just one thought.
Kind of like packet communication.
Yeah, and it honestly, it made me feel so insignificant. It was unbelievable. But then after that, I woke up in my bed the next morning, and hoping it was a dream. My brain couldn't handle it. My brain could not handle it. I remembered everything, but it's like, no, that can't be real. There's no way. So automatically, my brain, to protect itself from going crazy, it just said, well, it was a dream.
Hey, Stan.
Until I got up to make, yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I don't mean to step on your toes. I just wanted to ask you, what she was trying to send you telepathically, was that, I can't remember, but was that the part where she was sending you images of world disasters and hurricanes and floods and tidal waves?
Yeah.
That was at that moment, right? That was at that point? Okay, yeah. Because I found that to be very interesting.
I was seeing wind so strong it was scarring the pavement, scarring the highways off the earth, floods and huge tornadoes.
This sounds very
5 miles wide. And
Well, I'll tell you, it's interesting that you had that experience in 2001, and here we are 10 years later, and it's happening.
Exactly. Here
in America and Japan and all these disasters, and those twisters they had down in Joplin. Those F5s would strip in the pavement right off the roads.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's what's really scary. It really is. But they, I was freaking out because they kept saying something important's going to happen, something important's going to happen. They didn't say it. They just kind of put it in my head. It's like, when? Is the world going to end? When? And then I remember them showing me these, I don't know if they were pictures or if they were in my mind. I can't remember that part. But they were a picture of the Earth. And the first picture of the Earth was brown and dead and just fogged over, and the atmosphere was just. And then they showed me a second picture, and it was a little bit greener, a little bit bluer. The third picture was real crisp and clear, and the fourth picture was just absolutely pristine. And then they showed me like a sunrise, and it was the most intense, beautiful sunrise, and everything was beautiful, and it was. And then, you know, I kept asking, well, you know, what is this? And they wouldn't answer me. They just put these dots in my head: 1, 10, 6, 4, cheese, 9, 8. And they numbered the dots, and then one of the dots had the word cheese next to it. It's like, what the hell? What's cheese got to do with anything?
Swiss or American or
Gouda.
Yeah, I don't know. But, you know, the next morning, like I said, I got up to make pancakes, and I was going to tell my sister what a horrible, weird dream I had. And she goes, what happened to your back? What's wrong with your back? It's like, huh? I didn't feel any pain, but when I felt my back with my hands, I could feel these deep holes.
Wow.
And they were seeping a little bit, and I looked down on my wrists, and my wrists had all the hair rubbed off, and these wounds, rub wounds, I don't know how to explain it, you know, from a strap or something.
Yeah, like an abrasion?
And, like an abrasion wound, yeah. And I flipped out because I knew what had happened was real, and I flipped out so hardcore. My sister thought she was going to have to rush me to the hospital or something.
Oh, wow. Well, it's imagine, you know, your whole world is just in just a couple hours flipped completely upside down. Everything that you thought was reality is no longer, you know, is shattered.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is my sister remembers there being 3 people at the door, but there was a woman and 2 men, and they were all wearing business suits. And she goes, I don't remember what happened. I don't remember after they came to the door, but they were wearing the woman was wearing some kind of pinstripe business suit.
Yeah, for everything that I've seemed to read, they're really good at planting thoughts and, you know, altering memories in people's heads, screen memories, even you know, again, I'll mention Whitley Strieber's books in Communion, where he would see owls and realizing that was a screen memory for an alien visitation.
Yeah, absolutely. People, you know, it's interesting, and if you do any research, you find out that a lot of abductees are afraid of owls, clowns, and dolls, especially porcelain dolls, because they have that white face.
Oh.
Yeah, we know
about dolls.
There's somebody else we're going to be talking to who's scared to death of dolls, but for other reasons. Our friend John Zaffis on The Haunted Collector. So we just had an interview with him too. So, but you know, I actually also just finished reading John Mack's first book. It's taken me a long time to get to it, Abductions, and you know, you're absolutely correct. In most of the alien abduction experiences that I've read, it's people are usually taken when they're sleeping, floated through a wall, through this technology that seems to, you know, make matter not exist. And yours, where they actually come to the door, knock, and take you, which is highly unusual. But your case has been highly unusual all the way. The different when you started having the dreams, for lack of a better word, and started writing down these equations was interesting.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could.
Yeah, and that started. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say if you could tell us a little bit about, you know, how that kind of came about and what the results were of it.
Well, you know, after my abduction experience, my first abduction experience, instead of calling trying to get me to go to the hospital, she got a hold of my friend, and my friend said he was kind of into the UFO stuff. I remember making fun of him. And he said, you know, you've probably had an experience. Let's get a hold of, you know, the local UFO organization. And so they did, and luckily they got a hold of MUFON International, which is Mutual UFO Network. And they were based in Colorado. International MUFON was based in Colorado at the time, not far from where I had my experience. So, you know, we got a hold of John Schuschler, which is the head of MUFON at the time, and they sent their top guys over. And they saw the wounds and everything, and they said, well, you know, if you've been abducted and you have these scoop marks, sometimes if they're fresh enough, they'll fluoresce in their black light. Well, they got a black light out, and I remember I scraped my knee, and they shined it on my scrape on my knee and nothing. But as soon as they got anywhere near those wounds, they lit up like a Christmas tree. And honestly, it didn't make anything better. It didn't make me feel any better.
Made it a little more real, where
Absolutely.
you could
So
have
what's
your
weird-
doubts, but
Yeah, well, there was no doubt. Well, I tried to make doubts, but it wasn't working. Somewhere I'd never experienced before. There were no corners. There were no sharp corners anywhere. Everything was rounded. There was no furniture, freestanding furniture standing anywhere. I mean, everything was molded out of the surroundings. And I was standing kind of in a trench, for lack of a better description, and there were quarter-sized pieces, round quarter-sized pieces. The female had walked in through this arched doorway, and I couldn't figure out how she could walk around, and I couldn't. And she walked up next to where I was stuck against this wall, and she put her hand on the lit panel, and it kind of released me. And they turned me around, and what I remember specifically is every time I had a thought, like, oh my God, what am I doing here? Oh my God, where are you from? Symbols would pop into my head, and that's really copper pieces embedded in the wall every foot or so in a pattern. And I was stuck to this wall, and I couldn't get free no matter. I could move my head, I couldn't move my hands. I mean, my arms, my legs, my body. I could move my feet and my hands. But if I tried to get away, it was like too much gravity. That's the only way I can describe it. And I remember when I came to, it's like I just woke up from a sleep. It didn't communicate like we do. I remember when I woke up stuck to a wall, literally stuck to a wall. It's like I wasn't strapped down, I wasn't glued down. It was like those centrifugal force rides that you go to an amusement park, tilt-a-whirl or whatever those are called.
well, just to clarify, strapped to a wall where? Back in your apartment or somewhere else?
No, somewhere completely different. This room, the lighting was different. The smells were different. It was like they were almost, I can't explain it. They were just, the sense you got from them, they were almost like they were almost not, they were so advanced, they were kind of between physical and non-physical. That's the only way I could describe it.
I've actually heard that a lot lately.
And they were, they didn't